It happened again. I can't believe it's happened again. So almost a year ago to the date, we were here to do a bit of a Pleasure Beach update. I thought I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go up to Pleasure Beach when everyone else is going down to see Nemesis, and I'll film something that no one else is filming. And when I got here last year, or the night before I got here last year, it turned out that the legends had formed a supergroup, because Sean Evans from Lift Hills and Thrills and Scott from Your Experience Guide had already been there the day before and done it before me. So this year I thought we would try again. We would pop up, we'd do it even earlier this year before anyone else had the idea. And as we got here, we drove onto the car park, and who the hell is bloody already here but Scott and Stephen from Your Experience Guide. I'm never going to be the fastest at anything. In fact, this is the 2026 update, so I've beaten everyone. Got the old Journey to Hell sign over there, and this year that's apparently a big improvement over previous years, so maybe intrigued to come to that next year. This year even, keep forgetting that we're actually in 2025. It's at the end of this year that scare season will be, which seems just weird to say that we're already in 2025. We've got the Pleasure Beach Express. Obviously we're not expecting any kind of updates to this, but probably going to be my first ride of the season, to be fair. And then you've got what is now essentially just a big gaping gap where Grand Prix used to be. I suppose the only guess is what Grand Prix is going to be. Obviously it takes up a hell of a lot of space within the park, and with a huge footprint that it takes up, I can only really see a coaster going there, because a flat ride, I think you're going to need to put a couple of flat rides there to really utilise the space well, whereas a coaster can weave in and out of everything. We've seen how they utilise space in Blackpool anyway. They're really fantastic at getting those coasters in and out. So I reckon a new coaster, it's got to be a new coaster, especially after Hyperia's opened and they have stolen the tallest coaster in the UK from Blackpool. I think they're going to want to do something that's a bit unique, a bit brand new, and I can see something special going in there. I think Blackpool's the one to watch for the next few years. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever walked down this tunnel under Blackpool Pleasure Beach in the winter when it's not heaving in summer and there's no one there, definitely feels like you're going to get mugged. Nothing really going on with Big Dipper. And then much the same, nothing really going on with Infusion either. There's even less work going on than there was this time last year when we came. And then obviously, for the first time in many years, you can't see behind me any sort of scaffolding up for a retrack on the big one. Now, Pleasure Beach did have a contract, I believe, since 2019, a company called Tazica, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, or Tazica. They had a contract with them to retrack the big one. Now, rumour is that there's been a bit of a falling out and that contract has ended, so thus ends the retracking of the big one. Now, what does that mean for the big one? Because obviously it's over 30 years old now. All of the coasters that had been built at the same time, Nemesis, now Nemesis Reborn, the Shockwave, which is now just the Wave, both of them have had pretty extensive work done to them to get them updated and make them sort of safe, relevant and fresh for today's theme park enthusiasts and general public. Now, the big one, obviously it's had multiple retracts throughout the years, or partial retracts throughout the years, so its life has probably been extended a little, but there's no doubt that it will be roughly at the end of its life at the moment. So what are they going to do? Is it going to be contracted out to someone else for a full-on retrack at some point, or is it going to be a completely brand new ride? Who knows? Personally, I think I would like to see some form of new modern hypercoaster go there in its place. So something like Hyperion at Energylandia. I think they could use a very similar profile to what they've got now. Obviously new track, new modern trains, lap bars only, all that jazz. And I think you could have something pretty special if you just followed the same route relatively, but changed the profile, adding some new elements. It could be pretty damn special. One thing I do say every year though is that this entire bank of storefronts and shops needs something doing with it. This is essentially like the front entrance, the facade of Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and it just looks run down as hell. You've obviously got little gems like Ripley's Believe It or Not, but then you've got other iconic British iconic Blackpool landmarks such as the Horror Crypt just over in the corner, which rumour is they were forced out of business to move somewhere else, so this could all be owned by Pleasure Beach. But there's just so many empty stores and dilapidated fronts that it just looks horrible. Even if Blackpool purchased the entire front row of shops here and they just did the front of them up, they don't even need to put anything in them, just make a lovely facade across the front of it, I think it'd work really well. I came here to heavily speculate what this arcade was going to be last year because they began ripping it out. It looked like they were going to do something with haste, and we assumed it was going to be something new and fresh, maybe a new Pleasure Beach store for the 2024 season. Turned out all they did was rip it out, dump everything in the corner, and it's still exactly the same now. And you can still see the old remnants of the Pleasure Beach monorail up there, which it's a damn shame that that's gone. One of many attractions that's disappeared over the years that hasn't been replaced. And you know, after visiting Blackpool multiple times this year, and I've said this already on multiple vlogs, that we've actually enjoyed ourselves here more than we have at any other UK park, it's kind of a shame to see and kind of feel the way it's going, because a lot of it does look very run down, but you know just how special it could be if they really put the investment in. And in all fairness, it's easy to see why it gets left to be run down in terms of the money that must be getting spent, because Blackpool itself is an extremely run down place. I only really found out last night doing a little bit of research. I've been coming here years, but I've never really known that Blackpool is that run down that out of the 10 poorest neighbourhoods in the UK, 8 of them are actually here in Blackpool. And things are that bad that you're actually, on average, will die younger if you live in Blackpool than if you live anywhere else, because the average life expectancy is around 6 years lower than anywhere else in the UK, and that's quite sad, really. With the sort of blueprint that they've got already for what could be a wonderful, beautiful seaside town, it's just a shame that it's getting that run down, that it's driving some people away. And there it is, probably the biggest change we're going to see this year at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Ice Blast has now been confirmed to be coming back, but not only coming back, it's going to have a complete refresh with a brand new cylinder on the inside to give it the original power that it had back when it was originally here. And not only that, it's going to be re-themed to a space theme, cleaned up, and it's going to be called Launchpad for the 2025 season. Now, we don't know whether that's coming straight away or whether it's going to be a bit further into the season, but it's an investment that's going to do wonders for the park, as well as many other things that are to come this season as well. See, just underneath Mr. Funshine here as well, you can see these little brackets. The old Mr. Funshine used to be there, and the old Mr. Funshine actually used to swing, have lights on him. It was a really good entrance sign, and they've obviously changed now to plain old Mr. Funshine, which is still lovely to see. But yeah, it'd be nice to have that old one back. Over down the far end of the car park as well. As with every year, this is where they store all of the actual working ride parts whilst they're doing maintenance. So as we can see, I think we've got something from most rides over here. I can see Big One trains, I can see Grand National trains, I think, or Big Dipper, maybe even both of them. There's lots of stuff, but quite curiously, there is actually some trains or ride vehicles over here which are very heavily wrapped compared to everything else. Is it just that they're taking care of them more, or is this some sort of new ride vehicle? I don't think it'll be a new ride vehicle. There's no sort of coasters or anything being built, but intriguing. Over here as well, I'm not entirely sure of where the plans put it, but somewhere, I don't know whether it's going to be inside the casino building over here, replace that, or a bit further along. I can't see them getting rid of the Globe Theatre, but there's plans for a new hotel on this side of the Pleasure Beach, which, I mean, I don't feel like we need a new hotel, but at the same time, Pleasure Beach's hotels are banging. They might get a lot of the stuff inside the actual theme park wrong sometimes, but the hotels themselves, some of the best hotels you'll find in the UK in terms of theme park hotels, and even stacked up against some of the luxury hotels out there as well. They're really nice. And ultimately, if the hotel's bringing more money for them to then reinvest in the parks, all for it, game on. And then just to end today's vlog off, I always pay a little bit of a visit to what I've termed the Pleasure Beach graveyard, because there's an area at the back of one of the car parks where when everything is done and dealt with, ready for the scrap heap, it gets brought out here and just gets dumped. Now, I don't know whether they actually reuse any of this, whether it's just storage, but for the most part it looks dilapidated, and all of the ride vehicles are stored down in the other car park, so I'm assuming this is just stuff that is pretty scrappable, but I've no idea what this is from. Kind of looks like a bit of an astronaut from the back. But I think last year when we came, there weren't a lot here. There was a couple of sections of the big one track at the very back, and there was some old like wooden totems which were down the bottom as well. This year there's substantially more. I mean, obviously a lot of this is from Grand Prix, all of the rubble and stuff from Grand Prix, but the most interesting bit is you've obviously got these huge, I don't know if this is just the internal structure or the actual pressure cylinder from Ice Blast. And if you're a nerd like me, coming and seeing stuff like this, it's incredibly exciting to see, just to get so close to a structure that you usually wouldn't be able to see how it all works. But yeah, this is the death of Ice Blast. You've got a couple of motors around the back as well. You've got a couple of boat vehicles over here now. I'm probably being really thick, not knowing where they're from. Drop me a comment down below and let me know where these are from. Are they from the log flume by Nick Streak, maybe? I don't know. But you can still see you've got the big one track in the back, but there's actually sections of it missing. And this is likely where they cut those sections off to create the merchandise that they then sell in the Pleasure Beach store. Well, that was a short, quick, fun and pretty useless trip to Blackpool Pleasure Beach to give an update in January 2025. Now, if you've liked the video, by all means hit the like button. Please, if you want to see more, subscribe and leave a comment down below. Let us know what you're excited about for Blackpool in 2025. And then what I suggest you do is you actually go watch your experience guides vlog from today, because you'll likely get tons more information than you will from watching us here on the channel. But if you have stuck with us till the end, I massively appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.